I've basically identified three options within my general manager's report. This has been based on numerous discussions over the last couple of years with contractors and also consultants around the best way forward in relation to trying to provide an appropriate line of sight or delineation in regards to the shear fall on Abbey Walk, which is a concern. The three options we've come up with, and my preferred option, which is option I think C on my report, relates to the line of sight with regards to installing. At the moment I've got estimated about 20 bollards, which would be the equivalent to the kind of bollards which you see in the pannier market, the temporary ones which are taken in and out. Now the reasoning behind that kind of installation is to try and install something that, one, is going to have longevity, two, isn't going to be a maintenance issue probably within a couple of years if we decided to try put a grass verge in or put in paving slabs, etc. And thirdly, isn't going to be disproportionate in relation to potentially putting railings in across the whole of the run, which I think this council discussed probably going back about 6 or 7 years ago, and there was that wasn't supported in any way, shape or form in regards to that option. Now we've done phase one of the resurfacing works, which basically takes it from Abbey Walk up to the first set of railings coming out from the Bedford car park. The second phase, which isn't subject to delineation works whatsoever, so we can just get on with that, relates from that railing to Jubilee Arch. So I want to undertake that work ASAP before the end of the financial year. In regards to some of the paving areas are showing significant signs of wear around Jubilee Arch, etc. Going back to my point around the kind of thought process for edge protection, there is currently a shear fall height of between 3 and 4 metres. There is a variance on the edge of the whole of the run between concrete poured areas, natural stonework, other areas where the tarmac runs right up to the edge, other areas which are delineated by tree roots. So there's a complete mixed bag of edge protection or not edge protection at this stage. I've got no ideal solution in any way, shape or form. As I said, I've been trying to look at this for about 2 years. This is what I would say is the least impactful to the retaining wall element of the River Tavy, and will provide an improvement to the existing setup that you've got on Abbey Walk. If it's a view of this council to just go ahead with the resurfacing and maintain Abbey Walk as is, I can understand that viewpoint as well. But as an officer and a health and safety officer to the council, I feel it's important to flag up that we do need to consider potential measures in relation to this area.
Councillor Gibbons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've had no problem walking down Abbey Walk ever with my guide dog and without. I would say the bollard view is the best way. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members wish to speak? Councillor Sanders, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Personally, I'd leave well alone. I think the incident of accidents is incredibly small on that area. I think whatever you put there is going to look absolutely horrendous. And bear in mind, we've got the Abbey Wall remains on the other side, so I'm not sure whether you'd even get planning permission to do it. But frankly, unless we were going to do something which actually stopped people falling in, and the bollards won't stop people falling in, they might tell them where the edge is, but they won't stop them falling in. I just can't see any point in it whatsoever. It's going to look absolutely horrid having a line of bollards all the way down through there, and I can't see what it's going to achieve. Frankly, I would leave well alone. Whether the actual edge itself needs a better definition or not, I don't know. But the record of accidents, as far as I can recall, is very small. Most of them, I think, have occurred when people have been under the influence, so I haven't got too much sympathy with that. And, you know, bollards just create something which children will love to swing on and play around. And I know they're set half a metre back from the edge, but nonetheless, I mean, it'll be wonderful from the children's point of view. and potentially someone is going to not be looking what they're doing, is going to walk into a bollard. I would much rather leave it well alone. I don't know that we've any obligation. I mean, it wasn't that long ago I was in Stratford-on-Avon walking along beside the river. Absolutely nothing between me and the water, and nothing between the children, not my children, but other people's children who were there at the time, wandering along. You know, it doesn't seem to bother other places, so I'm not sure why it should worry us, quite frankly.
Sorry, I've left it on, but I would agree with that. I think leave well alone.
Well, can we ask the General Manager how this has come about, or is there anything you want to elaborate on the reason why we're doing this then?
Because he's always wanted to.
As Health and Safety Officer to Council, I've got to look at areas which I identify as potential risk or concern, which could be concern around litigation, etc. Abbey Walk has been a project which has been on the capital programme for a significant period of time, and I have struggled, and that's why it's been on the capital programme for a significant period of time, to come up with a suitable solution to what I believe is a potential risk. The main issue around the whole of the run is about the delineation of the actual walk itself. There is no natural finish to the path. So basically, on areas you'll have tarmac which runs right to the edge. On other areas you'll have concrete curbing, which is slightly raised, which becomes a trip hazard. On other areas you'll have vegetation and growth, which grows above the actual path itself, so actually hides within reason where the edge is. It is a level of risk to the council. We are improving that with regards to resurfacing, which is critical and will be finished and delivered by the end of March. From my point of view, that is an improvement to the existing situation, and therefore if it's the will of council to take that measure and that measure alone, I can understand the thought process behind it.
Thank you.
Well, having looked at not just the three options, because obviously there's a fourth option, doing nothing. But if we're going to resurface, and we do need to state where that edge is, because I think it's a minefield, this is, because what you've illustrated is the fact if there's a civil claim on this, there are inherent dangers there, risks, I should use the right terminology, and if we don't do anything or acknowledge it, because it's recorded anyway, that today you put it to council to ask us what our opinions are. We're not health and safety, somebody may be a health and safety officer, but I think we're all aware of health and safety, and we know that sometimes there are bollards or other street furniture which stops you immediately doing something, or you see it and you say, what's that for? And I think this is on one of those occasions, and that perhaps some sort of luminous tape or some other round the tops, so they are easily identified by people walking. But if they're walking that badly, and they haven't got anything at all as a signpost where the edge of the river is, if it's so the edges are ragged, then I think we ought to do something on your observations and as health and safety officers of the council. So I would support number 3, that the resurfacing, the bollards are there. As you say, it's a long-term matter, and I think we've acknowledged that. It is a danger. People get into all sorts of problems now, health and safety, and it's only when they injure themselves, perhaps then they'll think, oh yes, I want to make a claim now. We've had claims before. It's no secret that the council's had claims in everyday aspects. So I'm going for number 3. I do agree with the General Manager on this. It does need addressing and acknowledging by this council, and I would put forward number 3. I don't know how you're going to split this up and people decide what they're going to decide, but I am going for number 3, the bollard, with the General Manager. Thank you.
Okay, right, if I could just say there's a queue waiting to speak. Oh golly, there's another one just gone on it. Why have we got so many Phils and Pauls? Right, at the end, when we've discussed this, we're not going to take a recommendation forward tonight. A recommendation will be brought to the next meeting when the General Manager and the Town Clerk have got a view of how we've all felt about this. So if I move on, it is going to be Councillor Moody, Councillor Williamson, Councillor Sanders and Councillor Palfrey. Councillor Moody, off you go. Oh.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I understand all the issues. I understand the argument for doing these proposals. My personal view is I tend to side with the Deputy Mayor in that the bollards could, to my mind, could create more of a problem than solving the problem. And my preference would be to certainly a resurfacing, but some demarcation of the edge. You know, we don't have bollards along a railway platform, do we? But I think if it's, I know that there are people with visual impairment, but I think for the general public, some form of visual edge, as long as it is probably the wisest way to go.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Can I just say, I have to say that I think the bollards would actually encourage leapfrogging all the way along them, and somebody trips and ends up in the river. I actually think we'd have more people in the river with bollards, with the way they're spaced, because there's nothing better than looking at them. Sorry, Mr. General Manager.
If I can come back on that point in relation to if there's you know, not support around the bollards element, I would also say please do not consider the delineation measure with regards to edging curbs or something like that, because the existing bank itself is not stable enough to implement or install any edging curb whatsoever along that run. There is no shear edge to match up to. As soon as you start doing any excavation works, you're just going to damage that edge even further, unless you're intending to spend hundreds of thousands to potentially underpin the whole of that wall to try and put an edge in. My suggestion is you do nothing and you just resurface as an option. There are other methods you could look at, which are, it was touched on by the Deputy Mayor, around imprinting as a visual line, a foot of a different coloration of tar, macadam, etc., to provide a barrier. But do not, please don't encourage going down the route of trying to put a solid kind of edging curb in or a flag kind of setup, because it just won't work.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Williamson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Moody touched on it. I think some form of visual delineation as a platform edge, as a white line in the middle of a road, to guide somebody, possibly with reflective material in it, torch light, lights from the street. They're not good, the lighting in that area, but somebody with a torch could pick up a white line. I would suggest that would be the most cost-effective, non-intrusive, as the Works Manager has suggested, because of the nature of the fabric bank. One goes to somewhere like Berwick-on-Tweed and walks along the side of the town wall. It's not a 3-metre drop, it's a 30-metre drop. And the path is 3 foot wide, not 8 foot wide. So these risks exist in heritage towns, and we've got a heritage to protect, listed buildings, all of that. Something visual might do the trick without damaging the fabric and so forth. It's a suggestion.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Sanders, Deputy Mayor, please.
Well, hopefully the debate sort of moving, I hope, in the way of doing, not in terms of bollards, but what I was going to say was that if we do this, then I guess we've got to do the canal as well, because it's every bit as dangerous. And once you start, where do you stop? If you say this is a hazard that we need to recognise, then we've got to deal with all of the hazards that we've got, and there's quite a few. My personal preference would be, I entirely understand what the General Manager is saying about the actual extreme edge, but if something along the lines of the sort of material that's used where there is a dropped curb, which has got a pimpled surface to it, which allows people with visual difficulties to actually be able to identify if a row of slabs of some nature, not looking horrendous, but if they were set back from the actual edge so that they would sit into the the path itself without compromising the edge position, that would provide a good delineation, I would have thought, for just about everyone. And, you know, at the end of the day, how far do you go? I mean, most people don't fall off railway platforms, and vast majority of them jump off because that's, you know, it's an intended to. It's not impossible to fall off a platform, and I have actually seen it happen once, unfortunately. But you know, I just don't know where you stop once you start down this road. But
Thank you, Councillor Sanders. Councillor Palfrey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think before I could make any opinion on this, I would need some more information from the General Manager with regard to the degree of risk which is currently there, and regard to the reduction in risk by putting down any of the three propositions. Because I, for one, can't see why a bollard at 15 metres, which is about 4 car lengths apart, would dissuade anybody from falling into the river if they actually wanted to fall into the river. So I'd like to see, before I make any judgment on this, what the actual degree of risk is and what the degree of risk would be once these recommendations have been put in, so we could make an informed choice.
Okay, the General Manager will respond.
By all means, I'll try and define that how best I can. What I haven't articulated within my report is part of the issue is about trying to deal with surface water runoff on the actual Tar Macadam path. So it has to have some form of camber to actually get the surface water running off towards the edge. Those who are slightly unstable on their feet may have a natural tendency in certain areas to drift off at an angle walking on the path, especially on the steeper areas leading from the actual leaf picker, for want of a better definition, in the weir. From reading the will of the council at the moment, if I go down the route, if council are comfortable to resurface, get the second phase of the resurfacing undertaken, and then look at other options potentially with regards to tar macadam printing material, which might provide a delineation, the heritage kind of finish, where it might be a slightly different coloration on the tar macadam to the edge, which is only 0.5 metre in width, etc. That will provide a different line of sight. The difficulty I've got is, as I said, along the whole of the run there is a multitude of different edges, so it's not as simple as just installing one finish across the whole run.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Sanders. Right. Oh, Councillor Palfrey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I just refer to Costco 1094807?
What page is that on?
Page before, page 2,
Yeah.
where it says bid unsuccessful. Will that refer to
Where are you,
item
sorry?
203, cost code 1094807, New Works Depot Procurement?
Yep.
Yep. We've got bid unsuccessful for... Yeah?
Yeah.
Does that refer to 203, which is in part 2?
Yes. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Does Councillor Gibbons?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Basically, if you have bollards, they should be low ones, short ones, not big ones. That's my view. Secondly, I think a better option would be something like stubbled paving as you get on crossings along the edge, which people like me can appreciate. Thirdly, if I were walking along there without my guide dog, I would keep close to the wall. I wouldn't be near the edge. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the best option, in my view, is to do nothing at all.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Right. If we can move on now, please, ladies and gentlemen, to the Works Department report. Does anybody have any questions on this report? The only thing I'd like to bring forward from this report is that it's good news about Betsy Grimble's tower. Progress is being made. Excuse me one. Can I go back to the General Manager's report, please? Sorry. If we could go back to page 3, and third paragraph down is officers are considering a request to install a defibrillator on the town hall. The General Manager would like views, please. Councillor Gibbons.
I've left it on again, sorry. There's one outside the Bedford.
There is an update on that. One member of our staff actually went to the Bedford Hotel today, and they are keeping it inside the Bedford, inside a cupboard.
Oh, not so good. Okay.
So, not so good. Councillor Mrs Johnson.
The reason the Bedford are keeping it inside is because it got very wet outside and it wasn't able to function properly. I think if we're going to agree to this, we obviously need to be consulting with the conservation officer and make sure that it looks fitting for being next to the town hall, but also we need to make absolutely sure that it's going to be dry and it's not going to deteriorate. It's going to be able to function properly when it's required.
Right. The General Manager will give us an update as to where it's actually hoping to be positioned. Councillor Sheldon.
Yeah, so I was just saying about the dryness and all that. There is, perhaps it's just a type of defibrillator that they've got, because there's one I noticed at the Tavistock surgery on the outside wall, and that looks pretty weatherproof, and I would imagine that the medical people there will, you know, they've probably got more idea than some of us have, or I have anyway, on medical matters. But no, I think, I don't know what's happening with the Bedford and keeping it in a cupboard, but, you know, perhaps we could find out what assistance we could give to get that outside as well, because obviously the door's locked after a certain time, and that was the purpose of the street pastors, to go, and they wanted it there.
Yeah.
Is there anybody who, I'm not saying, is there a group who want this outside the town hall, or is it supporting anybody, or are we doing this as a council, or how's it getting there?
We have been approached by a provider that has funding to maintain the defibrillator for a period of 4 years, of which they would do weekly service checks as well. So it's fully funded for a 4-year period. The area in question that they've requested around accessibility and stuff like that and line of sight is the corner of the town hall, where you've got the return leading to Duke Street, which is rather unsightly, and a small little window to cover up that boarded up window. Take your point on board around the right kind of look of the defibrillator. They only come in certain colours because obviously they need to be high vis as such, but you can get them in a green kind of colour, which would be more sympathetic to that environment instead of bright yellow. And as I said, it's a 4-year maintenance period by an external funder.
May I just ask, is this going to be a brand new defibrillator? Well, Councillor Sheldon, might I suggest that you need to ask questions about the Bedford Hotel one, because that's actually paid for out of TAP funding.
Well, this is what I wondered. I don't know whether, you know, the street pastors could be approached to see what they're actually doing, particularly when the hotel could be closed or they can't get access to it easily. How accessible is it for the people who wanted it in the first place? It isn't accessible. Is there any balance between finding out what we could do as a council to assist the Bedford Hotel to bring it out, or what do they actually need to waterproof it? And then perhaps we could get that, you know, we could get some sort of funding to get that put somewhere else. You know, I would be handy to have 2 in the town. If we're going to look at the town hall area where there are public functions and people may be enjoying themselves too much and may have a heart attack, I know not, but it would be handy, the more that we have got of these things and they're actually out on the streets and they can be used, because apparently anybody can use them. The set of instructions is getting easier. You don't have to have training for them as such. Is there anything we can do as a council to ask the Bedford? I know I've been, you know, but can we just try and find out, because it is public money, as the Mayor has said, and the street pastors, what are they doing at the moment if they need emergency equipment?
I think if we leave that with the officers and they'll come back to us if necessary, particularly to your good self, Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Sanders.
I would just make the observation that my understanding is that the pads need changing every year. That's fine if they're being maintained for the first 4 years, but thereafter, presumably, the costs of that will come back on us. I'm not sure that everywhere does change the pads every year, but my understanding is that ideally that is what is supposed to happen.
We don't own it, the town clerk has just pointed out.
It's not for us to own, is it? No.
Well, sorry, somebody said the document here says that they will maintain it for 4 years. What happens at the end of 4 years?
Sorry.
Is it taken away, does it?
Yes. I mean, this isn't an arrangement whereby the ownership is passing to the town council. It is a body which is asking for consent to fix and locate a defibrillator to our building in what it considers to be an appropriate location. But unless I'm mistaken, we would not own it, and at the end it would continue to be their responsibility both for that period and for its removal at the end or replacement in consultation with the town council as landowner.
It doesn't actually say that in tonight's report, with due respect. It says the equipment will be maintained for 4 years and serviced weekly. So my question is, if we allow this to happen, are we going to have some kind of agreement which deals with the maintenance after 4 years or its removal at the end of that period? Because otherwise we're going to be stuck with it on our building.
Okay. Can I just leave it at that the officers have taken that on board and will ask questions? I have Councillor Williamson and Councillor Smith who wish to speak on this issue.
I know that BT are looking at closing or removing their telephone boxes. I just happen to wonder whether the one in the square might be subject to be removed or not. If it is, then obviously it's a piece of street furniture which a lot of defibs are housed in villages. It's possible that ours is vulnerable and could be removed. I don't know. It might be worth looking into.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Smith.
Madam Mayor, you had moved on, but I was just going to support the fact that we should have the defibrillator installed on our premise.
Okay. Thank you.
Pub.
Can I just ask, is there a general consensus without questions and comments, please, that we would like that, and the questions and comments that have been raised, the General Manager can deal with? But is there a general consensus that it can go on our building?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very happy with it. Okay, yeah. Thank you. If General Manager, you can bring that forward or whatever next time. Thank you. Councillor Mrs Whitcomb.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As regards to the BT, if you've read your plans, there is a list of the ones that are closing, and you can require this list. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Right. Okay. We did the Works Department report. Did anybody have any questions or anything? No? Right. If we move to the Town Hall report, noted everybody? And the Pannier Market report, which has quite a few of the dates for the coming year put in place. Any other comments? No? Right, if we move now to finance and other matters. So the first one is the Southern Parishes link, which, having read those minutes, Councillor Sheldon, is what made me think about the defibrillator, as there's been an incident with Dartmoor Forest and keeping equipment, which they've been asked to return.
Pardon?
You read their minutes.
Oh, was that the meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, read the minutes. Item B, Destination Oakhampton. Councillor Mrs Johnson, do you have anything you would like to verbally update from this report?
Just to draw members' attention to item 11, when we're going to have the open morning in the Pannier Market, 11th of March, 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock. We're going to have 2 stalls in the Pannier Market, which the Market Read has agreed to. I know where they're going to be positioned. People from the Destination Oakhampton group will be coming along with their displays, with questionnaires, and spreading the word about the rail link. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions, Councillor Mrs Johnson, on that report? No? Thank you very much.
Sorry, no, did I wasn't totally focusing, but is it Destination Oakhampton that are arranging this trip to London? Which is in March, if I remember rightly.
Yes, I think so. I
It's
think
the
this
same day
is
as the Six Nations final games played, I know that.
it's the
priorities.
It's very difficult to get to grips with how many groups in Oakhampton there are about the railway. I think there are actually 4, but from what I can understand, Councillor Mike Davis, who leads one of the groups and also sits on Destination Oakhampton, is leading on this, and it's certainly an agenda item, and Dr Michael Ireland is very keen that people should go on it. I think they said the cost of tickets for the return journey would be £40 for standard class and £70 for first class. It's a train that's going to go up at something like 7 o'clock in the morning. It's probably got the times in it here, and come back late in the evening to London and back, to get the idea that actually trains can run from Oakhampton, and people
It's on Saturday the 18th of March, if
That's
anybody
right,
is
yeah.
interested. I can't remember what the capacity of the train is, but there's certainly spaces available at the moment, I think.
I think there are a lot of spaces
Yeah.
available. There's a lot of people who said they're interested in it, but whether they actually book the tickets and pay for them, that's a different matter.
But it will actually give people the opportunity to spend most of the day in London, having gone up on the train and come back. I think it's got a Pullman car, is it, as well?
Yes, it has. Dr Michael Ireland is very keen that he's going to have some dinner in the Pullman car, so he's quite keen on that.
But for the lovers of the oval ball, I say it's the 18th of March, and I'm 99% certain that's the final Six Nations game, which I think might be England-Ireland.
I'm sure Dr Michael Ireland will get a television on the train for you, Councillor Sanders.
Cheap way to get up to Twickenham.
Right. Right, moving on. It's the assistant to the town clerk's report. Yes, it is. Does anybody have any questions for the assistant to the town clerk? Councillor Palfrey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to see if the assistant to town clerk could update us on any staffing matters and where we stand at the moment.
We are where it indicates on the bottom of the first page at the moment. We haven't made any progress beyond that point at this moment in time. As indicated, what we are anticipating is that we will advertise one of the office roles, which is a full-time role. The other role we will be coming back to members of the Budget and Policy Subcommittee to have a discussion with, and that will also link into wider work which has been done on the back of the review which was undertaken by South West Councils.
Okay. Anyone else? I would like to thank you all very much for coming to the Mayor's Christmas party. We had a really good fun evening. And I hope you did all enjoy it. And as you can see, we even made a little profit with the Rolling the Pound for the Mayor's charity. Mrs Smallcombe has put on here all the dates for the forthcoming dates, but please note the change of date for the grants presentation evening. And I believe she has an update on item 7 of her report, the property update.
When was it?
It was the 4th, but that's your election day.
True.
I just need to give you a very short update on the property. Unit 3 Pannier Market, we had agreed for a new tenant. We'd signed our side of the lease, but unfortunately they pulled out yesterday. So that one won't be progressing. So we will obviously go back to looking for a new tenant.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Gibbons.
Could I express thanks for that Christmas party? I enjoyed myself.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Even my wife enjoyed herself. She's unknown, one of those dudes.
I can't really answer that comment.
You don't need to.
No. Right, a THI report of the project manager, which is enclosed. If anybody has any questions, could they please direct them at the town clerk, not at the mayor. Anybody? No? Okay, we will note that report then. At the Guildhall there is a short verbal update from the Town Clerk.
Just really to advise members that we're moving up towards the point where we will have a mid-term review, as it's called, with Heritage Lottery Fund. That's the point at which we will be placing before them the emerging but developing proposals for the Guildhall. We are, as part of the preparation for that, meeting with representatives of the Tavistock Heritage Trust, and the design and activity teams will be coming together. We would anticipate shortly after that meeting with Tavistock Heritage Trust, which is scheduled for, I think, the 1st of February, that we will be in a position to come back before members and give you a meaningful view as to where the project stands in relation to the partnership and the proposals prior to the mid-term review. And again, that's something which we would anticipate probably delivering, first of all, through the Budget and Policy Group, and then reporting on to Council from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Town Clerk. Does anybody have any questions on that for the Town Clerk? Please don't. Good. Thank you very much. Now we have the Tavistock bid minutes. Councillor Smith needs to give an update on these minutes because they have been amended.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The minutes were amended at the meeting on Monday. And it's the first one's in connection with the benchmarking survey, which, as you will recall, this council was asked to contribute towards by West Devon, the same as bid. So the minute 8, where it says financial report, it has been amended to that AB reported that Darren from West Devon Borough Council had contacted him seeking financial assistance with their benchmarking survey. AB responded that following the commitments made in the re-election, the bid's finances were already fully committed and surplus funds were not available. Also on 9.3, where it talks about the operating agreement for bid, the amended minute now reads that AB said that the operating agreement between West Devon Borough Council and bid for the coming 5 years had to be renewed following the re-election. AB has reviewed the document and it's virtually identical to the previous one. Their collection charge, which is £4,000 per year, will remain the same and be collected yearly in arrears. And those are the two amendments that were agreed at the latest meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Does anybody have any questions? No. Right. Next item is the Chamber of Commerce meeting minutes. Councillor Sheldon, thank you, Councillor Sheldon.
Yes, the Chamber of Commerce meeting, I didn't know whether there was going to be one in the new year. Their website is work in progress at the moment. If anybody's looking at the Chamber website, they haven't really got much on it. They haven't got the meetings are still being held the first Monday in the month, but that was New Year's Day. But apart from that, it is winding down because there will be a new chair elected on February the 6th, and that won't be the old chair re-elected because they want to do 2 years and then they go off. So I don't know who's interested in that. There's only about 5 or 6 people who actually attend the evening meetings because they put a lot more effort into the breakfast network meetings, where I think they get about 20 to 25 people at 7:30 a.m. in the morning. But so neither myself or Councillor Moody can attend the annual general meeting on Monday, February the 6th. So I was looking for a sort of a volunteer councillor who would like to go along to the Bedford Hotel. That's at 6 p.m. on Monday the 6th of February for the annual general meeting. If that's in order to represent the council, if there's any councillor who'd like to go along, then I'll pause while you patiently think about it.
Just saying, would it be sensible if I go as the mayor just to have attended their AGM?
As the first volunteer, that's fine. Yeah. I think
okay.
Then you'll be able to see yourself who's interested in that, chairs and what the actual atmosphere is at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Sheldon. Item H, any updates from or questions to the council representatives serving on outside bodies? I think we've gone through most of those, haven't we? Right, if we move to item 8, to receive such communications...
Sorry, could you just jump over H?
No, I sort of. Go on then.
Didn't get a chance to speak. I just thought, as I represent, I think this council and Dartmoor National Park Authority, the planning system over there is going to be under very considerable strain in the immediate future. Their head of development management, Stephen Bella, has given in his notice and will leave on the 17th of February. The Chief Executive, National Park Officer, doesn't intend to replace the post immediately. He wants to reflect on what other changes might be necessary within the planning department's development management section. On the forward planning section, the head of that, Dan Denote, his wife died just before Christmas. He has a small child under the age of 4, which he's trying to sort out, so he's likely to be missing until towards the end of March, I think. And his number 2, Chloe, whatever, has been off for many months with a severe back problem and is not expected back. So effectively, they have no one in forward planning. So the development of their local plan is being put on ice. And they will be without a head of development management, and there will be no immediate replacement. Just to let people know that if they hear mutterings and rumours about issues to do with the national park planning process, that is the situation. It will be under considerable strain for a period of time.
I'm sorry to hear that. Councillor Mrs Wick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know whether this comes under age, but the Farmers Market have their annual general meeting this Saturday afternoon, which I intend to go to. So I'll report back if there's anything interesting.
Right, okay. The Mayor always used to be invited to that, to my knowledge. Am I correct, Councillor Mrs Johnson and Councillor Smith?
I had an invitation this week come through.
Right, okay.
It's normal for the mayor to get an invitation.
Right, okay. What time is it, Councillor Mrs Wickham?
2 till 3.
Where's it being held?
The Bedford.
Right, okay. Right, okay, that's what I can do. Farmers Market AGM. Right, thank you very much for that. Where are we? So, I have no communications. I have no urgent matters brought forward. So, Sam, it's time to go home, and Councillor Mrs Evans.
Councillor Squire.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Squire. Is it reportable? He was going to... Councillor Moody's about to do the door, I should imagine.
Spit it out.
Under item H, I felt it ought to be mentioned that whilst I'm not your representative, I am on a planning group for the reception of refugees into West Devon. There's a public meeting in this town on the 3rd of February, which is for West Devon as a whole, but I felt that the council should be aware of this taking place, and obviously it's open to any member of the council to be there.
And I understand Mr Geoffrey Cox, QCMP, will also be there at that
He's
meeting.
chairing said meeting, so...
Yes, so you have a choice between Councillor Sellis question time or Mr Cox, refugees at Tavistock College.
Hopefully we can be finished in time for both to take place.
Hope so. Right, okay. So public